Hello guys, I hope you're all doing really well. This is the Lord Cosplay, and today we're going to talk about how I made my Widowmaker gun. So this is her in all of her glory. Yes, it is her. I call her she. Anyways, so here is my hand for a reference. It is a pretty big gun. My gun actually does not transform, so that's just heads up. This part does not pop in, and this part does not go in, and these parts do not open. So if you're looking for a tutorial to see how to do that, this is not it. I'm sorry. My gun is permanently stuck in a sniper version, and I am completely fine with that. So anyways, let's begin. So to start with, I made a template out of a bunch of papers stuck together because I didn't have a large enough paper to actually accommodate for something this large. So that's what I did. I just freehanded the whole template. I did not use anybody else's template, so if it's not as accurate, well, too bad. This is my gun and I don't care. So yeah, I unfortunately did not save the template. I threw it away since I made this like last year and I didn't really care to keep the template. I don't really do that. So I just threw it away. However, you can always make your own, just freehand one, or you can download one from somebody and have a template to work from. My gun is actually, I feel like, a lot bigger than the normal templates. I actually did download one template and I did try it. However, the gun just seemed way too small for me. So I just decided to make my own. Anyways, what did I use to make this gun out of? Most of it is actually made out of insulation foam. For those of you who don't know, this is either the pink or the blue stuff that you can get from any hardware store that you put into your walls to insulate your place. It is very sandable and really lightweight. It keeps its shape really well. So yeah, that's what I used. I used the really thin one and I had 3 stacks of it pretty much. So I had to cut out my templates 3 separate times. So over here you can see the 3 stacks, 1, 2, 3, and those are the 2 seams that are glued together. To glue my foam together, I used the Super 77 Classic Spray Adhesive. It is highly flammable, but it is definitely worth its high price. It did a really good job. I just sprayed each side on all 3 sheets, or not each side because the outer sides did not need to be sprayed. So the inner sides I sprayed with this and I stuck them together, and this has not come off at all. It is stuck really well. So definitely recommend it. So actually, before I closed the whole gun, I had stuck 2 sides together and I quickly kind of carved out some notches and I put in my wire for all of these lights. This lights up on both sides. There's a light in here, but that's kind of separate. And then I stuck all the pieces together. Anyways. So after that, I sanded all the parts together. If there was any like really big parts, I just kind of cut them away with my knife. Then I sanded like my life depended on it, and you can still see the seams. It drives me crazy that you can still see them, but whatever. Then I gave some pettings to my kitty, and then I started working on some details. I think that the first thing that I did was add this whole part. So this right here is also insulation foam. I think it's just 2 pieces kind of stuck together. This is Worbla. I tried sticking this to this at a different way, but I needed to add this Worbla piece at the end to keep it a lot more stable, I guess. Because honestly, like, this just kept coming off of this, so I had to just reinforce it. I don't think it's actually like that in the game. This is just my little addition. This little pipe thingy, and this whole thing, I actually have... Let me show you what I have. So I have a crap ton of these guys, and that's what I just used. I used one of these guys for the long part, and then I just cut those in pieces for the shorter bits. So there's a light that's coming out from here. I'm going to talk about these first. So all the lighting stuff is inside, and there's also a battery in here. This top piece is just 2 pieces of craft foam that I just kind of stuck on top, and I was using the same 77 glue because you can definitely stick this kind of foam to, or like craft foam, to anything else with that glue as well. It's so easy. You just spray it and you just like wait a little bit for it to be tacky, and then you just stick it on wherever you need it. This will be one of like my mistakes that I'm going to talk about later on. There's a lighting part in there, and I think that this wire actually is disconnecting somewhere because it's not lighting up properly anymore. This actually, this battery over here takes care of the lights in here as well. There are 5 little lights in here, and they're all connected in here. So there's a power pack in here, and I don't know, I glued this tab so I can just pull them out whenever I want to. And there's battery packs in here, and there's actually 4 sets of 2-pack batteries, and there is a switch on each of them, but I think that I've left all of them on besides one, and once I click that one on, it will make the connection and it will light up all the lights. There are 5 lights on this side and 5 lights on the other side, so I was just using those coin cell batteries because I just had a lot of them, and yeah, that's what I did. So after I took care of most of the lighting, I think there's a light in there too that's also connected to this. Anyways, after I took care of most of the lighting, I started working on some of the detailing, like this part, which is Worbla. This is just meshed up Worbla together. You can't actually press it or anything. It's just for show, just because. This actually is 2 large pieces of yoga mat stuck together. And I don't know if you can see in there, but yeah, those are just like yoga mats that I got from the dollar store, and I just cut them up just because they're a little bit thicker than actual craft foam, and I use the same thing over here. It's just this was the shape or the texture that it had, and the other side is flat, so the textured side on these sheets is underneath. I actually really like the texture, so I just put it on top of here for this detailing on this little scope thing. This little part is also just Worbla. This is again yoga mat part. This is just craft foam. These little bits are just craft foam. This is EVA foam. I just cut it down in those like little parts, and to make the little holes I just use my Dremel, I believe. So those just little bits of detailing. This is actually one of those pipes, just like smaller, and I just cut it off. Like it's not in a circle anymore, so I just stuck it in there. This goes on top of here. It's kind of a hard one. These both are Worbla. This is permanently stuck on. This one comes off because this one has a battery thing in here for this light. So these are the batteries I actually used for the whole thing. I'm going to talk about mistakes that I have made with these in a little bit. Next, I already talked about what this is. These are just mashed up Worbla details that I have just stuck on. That including that whole part is just Worbla, and I just stuck it on. And I primed it and painted it. This back part is also yoga mat. I just really like that texture side, so I really just decided to use that. That is not accurate to the actual character. That was just my own choice kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I really like the using the yoga mat. It's a little bit thicker than the craft foam, so it just gave me the thickness that I needed. I burned this detail and this detail on each side with a soldering iron, I think. I don't remember how I did that. I'm pretty sure it was just a soldering iron. And last but not least, this part is also just mashed up Worbla, just kind of shaped it into that shape. And I stuck it on top of the other Worbla. And I really needed this to be a lot more sturdy, so that's why I used the Worbla. So anytime I needed to stick something to the gun non-permanently, I just use magnets. These are kind of cheapy magnets that I have so professionally stuck on here with a bunch of hot glue. I probably would have used other kinds of magnets for this. So to recap, the materials are various thicknesses, sizes, and kinds of foam. Some wires, some LEDs, some batteries and switches, obviously, because, I mean, you can't use the one without the other. And again, those, what do you call them, tubes that are just cardboard tubes. I actually don't really know where I got them from, but I got a whole bunch of them, so a bunch of cardboard tubes were used for this. Worbla, of course, and obviously paint, primer, all that stuff. How accurate is my gun? It is somewhat accurate. I have taken some liberties with some of the stuff, just because that's how I liked it and that's how I did it. If you're looking for your gun to be more accurate, then you might just want to not make your own template, but download one and maybe size a little bit smaller. I actually just prefer the larger gun, so that's what I did. But that's kind of not accurate to begin with. Also, a more accurate gun would open and close, just like Widowmaker's does. Again, mine is just stuck in a stamper form because that's what I like. These 5 things are not exactly accurate. There are 5 lights, however, these 2 are kind of hidden behind this thing, and I didn't want to make this thing hover over it, so I just stuck it on, and I just made 5 different lights. They're slightly different than those little Cheerio-looking things that are made out of Worbla, but that's okay. That's what I did. Also, over here, most of this is accurate. This part I know is not, but that's okay. So, what worked really well for this? I think that most of the materials that I used worked really well. I really like the insulation foam. I like how lightweight it is. The actual gun is pretty big and it's really not that heavy, so that's a really big plus. The Worbla worked really well because it's holding its shape wherever it needs to. The lighting worked mostly well, with a few exceptions. Yeah, I think honestly, most of it worked pretty well. I might have done a few things differently, but let's talk about those now. I did prime it with wood glue, because you can't really spray paint on top of any of that. I should have done a coat of Plasti Dip. There are little parts like over there where are like rising up, they're bubbling up a little bit, because maybe the prop has been sitting somewhere warmer, I guess. If that corner has gotten warmer where it usually sits, then little bubbles like that may arise. I actually really need to make a new piece because I got a lot of bubbles on this little top cap piece thing, and I just squished them down because it gave me joy to squish them down. But I need to make a new piece anyways. So speaking of the lighting, I totally should have used a much better battery than the lots and lots of tiny little coin cell batteries that I used. That would have been much better, and I could have just hidden all my shame in there versus having a pack over there, however many packs over there, something over there. I had to think of each light separately, and there was a lot easier way. I could have just wired the whole thing and had one big battery that was hidden in there underneath that piece that opens up, and that would have been much easier. Maybe next time I will do that. So let's talk about some wear and tear. I have brought this gun with me probably 3 or 4 times at conventions and shoots, maybe 5 times, and it's starting to get some of these bubbles. I'm starting to have some paint kind of chip off a little bit, which that's an easy fix. However, it is annoying nonetheless because I don't know if I have exactly the same paint left to fix that. This little part is way too heavy. I've actually put a D-ring in there and like a piece of some kind of a fabric or something, and there's a magnet over here. So I totally should have gotten some rare earth magnets and used those instead of the cheaper ones that I just kind of had laying around and decided to use, because it's really starting to chip over here from doing this all the time, and it doesn't even stay that stable. Some of the wiring in here is also, I guess, not connected that well because after a while of doing this, some of the lighting isn't working as well as it was before. So if I wanted this to survive longer, I could have wrapped the whole thing in Worbla. That would definitely have made it last a lot longer. However, I went the cheaper way and I used Worbla only when I needed it instead of wrapping the whole thing in it. Downside of using Worbla for the whole thing will obviously be the cost, because that will probably take like most of an extra large sheet. But also the weight, because there is no heavy amounts of Worbla and things like that. The prop is actually pretty light. It's mostly foam, so that's pretty light. I didn't talk about the paint that much. This is actually not spray painted in any way. This is all just acrylic paint. I really like this gunmetal kind of paint. I really like this blue paint. It has like a metallic-y kind of pearlescence kind of shimmer to it. I think I actually did a top of pearlescent paint on top of it. This is also just silver acrylic paint. All of this, the black is also acrylic paint. All of the dirt and all of these, this is actually oil-based black paint. It is a lot easier to smear the oil-based black paint with like your fingers or some paper towel or like a rag or something to kind of make things look dirty and stuff. I find this to work better for making things dirty rather than just normal acrylic paint. The normal acrylic paint does not blend as well. Thank you to 7S Photography for this wonderful picture that is on my wall of my Widowmaker. I really appreciate it. I've actually since then sold my entire costume aside from the gun. And why did I want to keep the gun? The gun is pretty big. It does not come apart in little pieces, so shipping would be really difficult. So unless somebody that's close by that wants to kind of pick it up, or for me to drop it off, or us meet somewhere wants to buy it, it would be difficult to ship across seas or anything like that, because again, it does not come apart. This was also my very first time figuring out all the lighting and things like that of anything ever, so it was kind of a nostalgic piece, so I decided to keep it for myself. I have planned to have wall space for it for a long time, and I just still don't. So aside from that, why would I keep a Widowmaker gun without a Widowmaker costume? Well, I actually plan on doing other versions of Widowmaker that this could potentially be handy in, if I just modify it a little bit or repaint it or something. I don't know, we'll see. So at YetiCon, we plan to have a pajama Talon Overwatch kind of a shoot, so I think I'm gonna keep the gun the way it is until then. After YetiCon and after that shoot, I actually was planning on making a steampunk Widowmaker version. This is gonna be my own design, so I decided to keep the gun for that as well. I ordered a bunch of little gears and watch parts and thing-bob-majigs and stuff, and I'm just gonna glue it all over the gun and kind of probably repaint some parts of it, and it's going to be a part of my costume. So I'm gonna bring the gun back to conventions and stuff. And of course, I'm strategically going to glue something on top of these little parts that have little bubbles and things like that. So any place that I don't really particularly like how it turned out, I will probably glue a bunch of stuff on top of it to make it prettier and more steampunk looking. So just for reference, this gun reaches up to my neck. Anyways, guys, like, favorite, subscribe for more cosplay related content, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.